All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to my panel. I'm Dr. Dean Aquino. So I got my Doctor of Pharmacy degree 8 years ago. That should be a little bit of a hint of what I'm going to talk about. So overall, it's going to be con survival. So we're going to talk about so many things about it. We're also going to include COVID as well. If I can move this, okay. So the overview. So we're going to talk about what we're going to do before the con. So we're going to plan. We're going to talk about money and time in terms of preparation. We're going to do during the con. We're going to talk about managing time, money. Also yourself. Your health is important as well. There's an etiquette component. We're also going to talk about networking. And after a con, we're going to talk about how to take care of yourself in case you get con crud, con plague, con flu, con blues as well, and all that. So, before going to con, you have to look for a con. So there are different kinds of factors that goes into it for looking for a con. So it could be the size, location, type of con. So in this case, this one is not just an anime con, it's also a video game thing. It's more of a variety one. It's all ages as well. We'll talk about COVID guidelines. I've noticed Showboat is not doing a good job with the mask mandates. So they have to work on that one. So is it physical or online? I prefer physical because you get that in-person authentic thing. And also reviews and feedback. I do reviews, I'm on Instagram as well, Goldine. So after the con ends, I will do a con review for that. Also, if you have the time and money, so we're gonna talk about that. Registering early is important because you get your foot into the door and you save money. And if there's schedule conflicts, so you gotta work on that one. And we're gonna talk about budgeting. So, COVID, it's been tough. We're here, we're in person now. I'm trying my best to fight this and to inform everyone to be safe about it. So, during the time when it happened during 2020, a lot of the events have been canceled or went online. So, I know PuchiCon for 2020, in March, they had a virtual one where it covers like Zoom, Discord, Instagram. I did an Instagram live on COVID in late March of 2020 when it was new. And now it's heading towards 2022. Now the cases are going up. One event in New York City called the New York Auto Show had to be canceled due to the Delta variant. So budgeting, money. So you estimate how much you have to spend. So you always want to overstate it because you want to make sure you cover all the bases. You don't want to understate it and then you end up not having enough money. So the things to look at obviously is the admission, transportation, the places to stay, the food, the merch, and other things that you're going to do. And using debit card versus cash or credit. The debit card rather. So I like credit cards simply because I want my points. Money is a little bit risky because once you lose money, you lose your money. But with credit cards or debit cards, if there's a transaction being done, you can actually dispute it if you make a mistake or, of course, if someone hacked in. That happened to me. I got hacked and I had to fix it. It takes about a week or so. So setting aside money, there are different ways. There is an app called Twine. It'll take money out from your account and go into another account, let's say for vacation, maybe it could be retirement, or it could be for cons, of course. There are different ways. So you can put 10% of your earnings in there, or you can maybe put $10, $20 each week, or maybe more. Of course, the earlier you start, the more money you're gonna have on your war chest. So you have to be proactive when managing money. So sometimes you have to also be diverse. You can't always bring your credit card. In my pharmacy, we have people where they don't bring anything except their phones. They think their phones do everything. What if your phone goes into the water and then you can't retrieve it? Then there goes everything. So you have to be really careful. What I do is I keep track of every cent and dollar on my book as well and avoid impulse and reactionary spending. So you always have to think, is it worth it? And ask yourself, will you have enough money after the con? So will you have enough to eat afterwards, or if there's an emergency? Or will you have enough for future cons? And of course, some cons are free, I've seen it. But most of them are online or virtual ones. And then the extra ones, especially with New York Comic Con, for example, they would have, you have to pay extra just so you can see a celebrity on Zoom. Not good enough, no. I want to see the person and I want to shake their hands and then use hand sanitizer afterwards. So this is how I write down, this is my planner. It's 24 hours. So this is Anime Next. Also, that was in the Atlantic City Convention Center 2 years ago. So on the bottom, I write down all the money I spent and all the money I lost, all the money I gained, and all the stuff I put in for the panels, I put in the schedule. So this is a rough draft. So you gotta build your war chest and how much money you want to contribute. So we talked about that earlier. And write down how much you have saved. So you want to look at those expenses, the cons, the travel, the hotel, food, everything, okay? And always have money left over. And keep in mind the money to spend per person per day, especially if you're traveling with more than one person. So this is from Anime Expo. This is the more complicated one. So this looks into the amount of money to spend per person and per day, and it looks at the total as well. This one is much more simpler. If you don't know where to start when it comes to budgeting, I would do this chart. So this is the one I did for Puchi Con. So money to spend, I would say 700. I just put a number right out off the bat. Maybe more, maybe less. Okay, badges I looked at, it's $74.99. So you take that one out. I did a hotel block, and it's about $193. And the bus I took, round trip, going from New York City to here, is almost $42. So those three, badges, hotel, and transit, they're all fixed. And the food, drink, and miscellaneous with merge, they tend to be a bit variable. So you have to watch out your money from there. And then the total budgeted and left over, so if you were to use $300 for miscellaneous, $50 for food, you'll spend like what, $660 and then $40 left over. So the less you spend, of course, the better. But this is just one example of how to budget your money. And you can use that for other things as well. So if you have bills, for example. So when you register, so most cons have a website, obviously. Okay, but when it comes to ordering the tickets, a lot of them, they have third-party sites like Eventbrite and so on, ShowClicks, Ticketmaster. And some cons have different ways of getting the badges. If you applied for New York Comic Con, it's tough because you have to get fan verified. And they're little, they love your money. So if you really want to guarantee for tickets at the time, I had to pay another $99 because I want my Saturday and Sunday tickets. So that's something to watch out for. And yes, there's more badges than that I put. That's in my room. So finding a place to stay, you book early so you get yourself onto the door, and you also save money as well. You shop around and also ask, like email the con if you have any hotel blocks, if you have any discounts. You check for reviews and feedback. I'm not a big quality person. You know what I do? I like to find the one that's closest to the con. In this case, the hotel room is actually above the con. And so again, you save money with the hotel blocks. They get Jen, actually the organizer, provide the code on Discord, but it expired now, obviously. So cheapest isn't always the best, but are you willing to spend more just to be close to it? Sometimes it can be really expensive. I looked at the prices a couple of days ago. It's like $600 per night around the area if you don't want to travel too far. Also read the fine print. So what if you want to cancel the trip or you want to postpone something or whatnot? So that's important. So some websites, I use Cheap Tickets. That's the one I use all the time. There's other ones like Hotels.com, Hotels Tonight. There's Airbnb, but I don't use too much of Airbnb. There's Travelocity and whatnot. So there are different kinds. So the Airbnb, hotels, motels, and hostels. I actually went to a hostel for the very first time in Otakon. So near Otakon in Washington, D.C. earlier this month. So obviously Airbnb, you stay in another person's home. Gotta respect their spaces as well. Obviously hotels and motels, so you book your own room. Hotels tend to be more expensive and tend to have a larger size. Hotels tend to have more amenities. Motels tend to lack it. It's just there, just to sleep or just to put your stuff there. I would do that because, not only motels are affordable, but I'm always outside of the motel going to places. Hostels. So the thing about hostels is it's similar to a dorm. So you have to share the space with strangers. And it's more affordable, but it may be risky because of lack of privacy. Of course, you have to follow their guidelines. One example was that I had, before I check out, I have to get rid of all the sheets. And so that's something to be careful, to think of. You're gonna share bathrooms too, so I don't know if everyone wants that. What I did was I'm suspicious of everybody, so I bring my stuff, I put everything in one bag, and I brought it with me to the bathroom. I have my own soap, my own loofah, my own toothbrush, toothpaste, and they have these different showers. So I did what I have to do, and then I clean it afterwards. So if you're an extrovert, it's great, you can make new friends. Just be careful because there are people out there who will take advantage of you, so be wary of that. So monitor your belongings, especially your money and devices. So I tend not to keep it in my pocket. I keep it really deep in my bag, and watch your bag as well. And as I said, also bring all the important things that you would use in the bathroom. So obviously your soap, your toothbrush, deodorant, shampoo, of course. All right, so money saving time. Showboat website originally, it was about $389 when I first looked at it. I used this discount code that Jen gave me, and I saved almost $200. So that's just one example. You have to look around for deals. You can actually use almost $200 just so you can do that for merch. So after you find the place to stay, I suggest you call the hotel to make sure it's reserved. I actually did the check-in, but check-in is like a little into 2 p.m. And so it's there, we're good. And check-in help and supports page, just in case, if you want your refunds or whatnot. And what I say, usually 5 per room, you can do less. I prefer that, I strongly encourage that everyone gets vaccinated if you're eligible for a vaccination. And if not, do a negative COVID test, a PCR test, 3 days before cons. So also find out if they do a free bag of code check. I did it earlier this morning. And online cons, anywhere with free, but anywhere with Wi-Fi or good cell service, that's all you need basically. So just in case, if one or more people will room with you, you want to find out who you're going to invite and know who you're inviting. So you got to background check everyone, make sure they're able to get along. Okay, so, and you also have to do the COVID test and all that, and determine who the leader is. In my case, I'm the leader, so I'll be the one collecting all the money in order to pay for the booking and all that. Communication is key, so I use Instagram sometimes. We also text as well, so DMs, and evenly split the cost of the room. So I collect the money, and then so we'll split it apart based on the cost of the room. You do not want your hotel room to be like this. That's a mess, all right? So what I do is I put everything in one section here, over here, just one area here, so I know where all my stuff is. If I put it all over the place and if I have a panel or a photo shoot going, I'm gonna be looking all day and I'm gonna be late for a photo shoot or the panel. We don't want that. So, ground rules. So you emphasize the rules. You keep it neat and clean. We don't want that mess, all right? You gotta clean up after yourselves. No eating on the bed. As I said, try to put everything in one area and keep the noise level down. You gotta respect your neighbors who's next door, all right? And be mindful of guests in nearby rooms. Keep the alcohol to a minimum, okay? If you're under 21, obviously don't take it. I will go into detail with the alcohol part. And the obvious thing, you gotta be courteous, polite, and respectful. Now, we're gonna do transportation. So you have to budget extra time. I actually did that with a friend, and I think I over-prepared her. She arrived 1 hour early because I thought there was gonna be traffic issues because my brain is not carb-minded. It's more of a transportation minded because I always think MTA is gonna screw up somewhere. So if possible, look for good deals. I'm actually gonna give one example of that. And it's important to shop around with different sites, especially with flights. So I'm gonna give you a whole list of it. You can actually take a picture if you want. You don't have to use all the sites. So familiarize with schedules. So you have to know when and where your mode of transportation departs. So if it's your plane on a different gate, you gotta be mindful if the gate changes or if the track number changes, if you're in a trade. So I had two friends who left at Penn Station. We were going to a con called PowCon in northern Jersey. They went on the wrong platform, and instead of going to northern Jersey to get picked up by my two other friends, they went to central Jersey at North Elizabeth. And the two friends driving had to spend about 2 hours to get there to pick them up. So you gotta give yourself enough time so you're able to have some wiggle room and try to, have some, again, breathing room just so you know where to go. Google Maps is great, I use it all the time. But as the saying goes, do not put all your eggs in one basket. Try to look at other places. Especially when you're driving, I would use Waze because it would go into areas where there's less traffic. But it's up to you. Again, research different ways to get there. I have paper and electronic documents. Okay, as I said, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't have everything electronic. Always have paper just in case your phone dies. But even if your phone dies, you have to have a battery pack. So that's what I have here. So just in case my phone is about to go low on battery, I have it here. So your tickets and itineraries and your documentation on the COVID test or the vaccinations, try to have it on paper if possible. I have it in my book, in my planner, the vaccination card. So once booked, you monitor frequently because anything's subject to change. Our bus actually got delayed for tomorrow going back to New York. So it's a minor thing, but you have to be prepared that something may cancel. So I'm gonna give just a few seconds. These are the many different travel sites that I found that you can use. Kayak and Momodo, that's the one I highlighted in red. It goes into other different sites, but what I tend to do is I use cheap tickets. I use TripAdvisor, Kayak. Again, that's the one I use. So there are different kinds. So this is one example of savings that I found going from New York City to New Jersey Transit. To Atlantic City. I used New Jersey Transit all the time before, and I spent $70 round trip. If you made a mistake, you would have spent, $78 if you did two one-ways. So be careful with that. In our bus, I spent almost $42. So I saved about $28. So that's more savings that I can go into buying merch or other things. So this is one example of a COVID test. So I prefer PCR, it's more accurate. And if it says not detected, obviously means negative. Obviously, if you're testing positive, it's better than to stay home and start quarantine, especially if you have symptoms. So this New York City has its own app. You don't have to live in New York City, but if you do go in New York City, you can actually download this app and you can take a picture of the ID, the vaccine card, and even the test. So, because there's a vaccine mandate now, so when you go to a restaurant, in many cases, it's required, or else you will not do the indoor dining. This is my vaccination card, and this is only for New York. It's a vaccine passport. Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. They don't ask you too much of your information. People get upset about the privacy thing. To be honest with you, if we have passports and if we do our taxes, so where's our privacy? Exactly. Well, I don't use much TikTok though. I use Instagram. Oh boy. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit about vaccines. I know it looks like it's a lot, but I'm gonna give you a summary for it. Thank you. All right, so in green, I wrote down that everyone ages 12 and up can get vaccinated. What got approved earlier this week? You know which company? Pfizer. Okay, what's approved? Which age range? Approved. No, it's 16 and higher. 12 to 16 is still emergency use authorization. You can still get it. I know that's where the lines blur, but you know, you don't have to worry too much about it. Just know that 12 to 16 is Pfizer. Oh no, yeah, 12 to 16 is Pfizer. 16 and up is approved for Pfizer. I got Moderna, so it's 18 and up. Johnson Johnson's 18 and up. I know a lot of people don't like Johnson Johnson. So if you're immunocompromised, and this is new information, if you have the Pfizer Moderna, you take the third dose 28 days after. If you have allergies to food allergies or whatnot, you're still eligible for the vaccine, just bring an EpiPen. Whatever advice I give you, this is more of an educational thing. So if you're not sure about it, you go speak with your doctor because every person's medical status is different. So if you have underlying conditions that increase the risk of COVID, I have asthma, for example, so you're even more eligible for it. If you have fainting spells, so those are your vasovagal reactions, so you're not fully exempt for that. Autoimmune diseases, I would speak with the provider. If you have Bell's palsy or Guillain-Barré syndrome, so those are your nerve-related ones, not exempt. If you got COVID in the past, you can still get your vaccine, so that adds more of your protection, so you can broaden that. If you're pregnant and nursing, you can get the vaccine. It's not gonna affect the baby. And starting September 20th, people who got Pfizer and Moderna, they can get their third dose at least 8 months after their second dose. Yes, question.
Brother has Crohn's disease. Brother got the Pfizer booster shot.
Yes, so that's an audit. So that one, sometimes a lot of people will take medication that would lower, weaken the immune system. So that's why, because Crohn's disease is an autoimmune disease. So when should you wait? Obviously, if you're sick, do not get the vaccine right now until you recover. Or if you have a fever that's greater than 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Why? Because your immune system is busy. We want your immune system to be available to get ready for attack once you get injected with the vaccine. So if you have multi-system inflammatory disorder, you wait until after recovery or 90 days from diagnosis. So you see that more with the kids. So kids and adults, they tend to show symptoms a little bit differently. Recent therapy with monoclonal antibodies or convalescent serum, so you wait 90 days. So pretty simple there. Who is not eligible? So obviously under the age of 12, we don't have the data yet. Most likely they're actually going to reduce the doses because it doesn't take much for them to get a response. So if you have serious adverse drug reactions to it, so if you have anaphylaxis, so your lips started swelling, if you can't breathe, if there's anything where you require EpiPen, so that's for those with allergies. If you're allergic to polyethylene glycol, no, that's not antifreeze, it's something else. Polyethylene glycol is found in something called Miralax, which is used as a laxative, makes you do number 2. Or polysorbate, emulsifier. So emulsifier, it actually mixes up the oily components and the water components. I know it's a lot of technical stuff. Yes, sorry about that. So myocarditis, pericarditis, so after first dose, that's something you want to speak to your doctor about. A lot of people, they actually recover quite nicely afterwards, but that's something to have a conversation with. So this is the complaint. People need to wear a mask. I'm sorry. Okay, and when you wear a mask, you cover your nose and your mouth. I'm sorry. Okay, Showboat is not doing a good job of that. What you're doing when you're taking a bus or train or ferry, whichever, you still wear a mask. Why? So, I'll explain why. Even if you're vaccinated, you still wear a mask. So this is the Swiss cheese model. All right, now the reason why it's important to do that is because the more you strengthen each layer and the more layers you add, the less likely you'll get not only COVID, but also the breakthrough infections that everyone's worried about. So as I said, multiple layers decrease the spread. So it states that no layer is perfect. Vaccines are not 100% perfect, but it does wonders, okay? So add the mask in, add the social distancing, which is not always realistic, of course. So wash your hands. You do your quarantine if you're sick. If you improve the ventilation, especially, I need the AC because I'm sweating right now. Okay, you limit the crowds. You don't do this. You don't touch your face like this. You keep washing your hands. All those layers add up. And unfortunately, since each layer has holes on it, the more you add in, obviously you're going to reduce the spread for that. So, who's traveling? We did a little domestic travel. I'm from New York City, so it's preferred that you get fully vaccinated because you're less likely to get it or spread it. Now with the Delta variant, it's a little bit different because now you can be carriers with it. We don't have full information on that, but it's very important to be vaccinated. The more people vaccinated, the less people sick, and the less people getting hospitalized, the less people dying. We don't want the healthcare system to collapse. I'm in the healthcare field, I'm the pharmacist, so I don't want to see that. I don't want to see anyone go to the hospital, and get their tube shoved down their throat. It's an uncomfortable feeling. So think about it. Would you do this or would you do a mask, for example? So the great thing about it is you don't need to quarantine, unless of course you have symptoms. Okay, because obviously if you have symptoms, you're more likely to spread it. But again, you still have to follow your safety precautions. You already know the drill. You wash your hands, you wear a mask, and if possible, you social distance. So that's a bit of an overview. So if you're not vaccinated, you have to get tested 1 to 3 days before you travel. Or of course, if the place requires you to get tested, usually it's PCR, of course. And then when you come back, you would get tested 3 to 5 days after. This is all from the CDC guidelines. And if you don't get tested, you quarantine about 10 days, or 10 to 14 days. International travel, this is a little bit more risky. So you still have to get fully vaccinated, and you still have to wear a mask. So you already know the drill with that. Obviously get tested 3 to 5 days afterwards. Now, you don't need to get tested before leaving the US, unless destination requires it, and as long as you're not sick. Anything can change. So right now we're in late August, so it's gonna get a little bit colder, so now we're gonna deal with the flu. I don't know how much of the flu we're gonna get, so we'll see what happens. And there's no need to quarantine after arriving to the US, unless if you have the symptoms. If, of course, you're fully vaccinated. So this one is just an overview. So if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to worry about the quarantines. Okay, but anything can change, so you have to be on the lookout for it. But before flying, you do have to get tested just to be safe. So when in doubt, just test. All right. If you're flying before arriving to US, you must have a negative COVID test no more than 3 days before travel or documentation of recovery from COVID in the past 3 months. And it doesn't matter whether you're vaccinated or not. It doesn't matter whether you live in the US or you're from another country. So flying is pretty expensive, but something's going on here. I think there's a lot of these fights going on. It's getting a little bit more inconvenient. And you have to plan ahead as well, because the seats, they get booked so quickly. And that's why it's important to book early and fly in least busiest times. And bring all your important documents and an ID. So you need always in the paper and electronic. So you don't have to worry about the real ID. That's going to come later on. It's been delayed simply because of COVID. But always bring your driver's license or your permit or your state photo ID. Passport is really good. The only problem is, it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit risky. I think to be honest, I do state ID. Research on what the carrier checks. So your props, for example, if it's really sharp. This one is a EVA foam, so it's not really sharp. So I can actually cover it in a sleeve. I have a sleeve in my bag for that. So your medical devices, your liquids. So my mom says, if you're doing domestic travel, arrive 2 hours prior. If it's international, arrive 3 hours prior. So arrive at the security gate. I like trains and I like buses, okay, because it's cheaper and it's a little bit more time consuming, but you get to have your little bit of sleep in here and there. I slept this morning on the bus ride. You still have to prepare your round trip itineraries. I would say arrive about 30, 60 minutes prior to departure, and you already know about the documents. I say if it's below 250 miles, I don't think flying is a good idea simply because you have to arrive at the airport 2 hours prior. So if the flight, for example, is like 2 hours and you have to arrive there 2 hours prior, and then the trip is about 4 hours, I mean, it's up to you. So I'd say going for a bus or train. So public transportation is easy. You still have to plan ahead, especially if you live in New York City, because there's always something going on, like a track fire. And it's, again, easier, convenient, cheaper, but you still have to study in maps and schedules and know how to pay the fare. And always have backup plans or detours in case something happens with the subway. Driving is, you have more freedom, but you have to treat your car as if it's your baby. Okay, your car needs to get an annual physical just to be safe. So I always have to get it checked before, because you don't want to be in the middle of the road, and if you haven't gone to the con yet and the car breaks down, that's a horrible nightmare. We don't want that. All right, if you're carpooling, driver choose the music because driver needs to stay away. Do you want to be in a crash? No. So driver has to choose the music. Okay, and you got to pay the driver too. Okay. So for any money that's used for gas and for the tolls, split them up among yourselves, just like when you're booking a hotel. I love cosplaying, okay? Cosplaying reduces stress for me, and when people tell me to take pictures, it feels so good. I love to see people smile when I dress up into the character I love. So, but when it comes to cosplay planning, most people con crunch. I con crunch this week because I've been so busy. I don't advise that, but you know, it can happen. Research the dress code and weapons policy. It changes every year. So just because it is 1 year it's this, doesn't mean it's gonna roll over to next year. It could be more stricter. And also each con has its own policy. So, and now, when you put your cosplay together, I would set a time frame on how to make it. So you set your goals and objectives, you stick to it, make sure it's realistic. Start with what you have first. You save money that way, and it takes some of the steps out. And then you gather all your materials and tools, and then also consider the weather and environment. I don't really consider that. I don't care. I love being the cosplay I am, okay, even if I'm sweating. Don't worry, I have deodorant somewhere, so. And always cost test. Okay, so if there's anything to fix, you fix it before you leave the house. Weapons, and props. So you gotta, again, follow the policy. Anything that's metal or sharp, it's less likely that will be accepted. So each con venue has its own set of rules. I think they're more lax here because they don't have a weapons check here. I have to look for that. A lot of times when they approve it, they'll put like a tag on it or a zip tie. You got to exercise good judgment and, again, consider the materials used. And be careful with live weapons. So, especially if you have guns, for example, you cover the holes. If you have bows and arrows, try to have it tethered so the arrows don't get released. It will be only used as, of course, for posing and all that. How you carry and transport them, so it's easy, but if it's really big, if you want to go all out, then you have to have like a different company do it. I wouldn't go into it. I would say that if I were to go extravagant, I would do it at a local con or within driving distance. That's just me, because I like to make it easier for myself. If it looks dangerous, try not to expose it. I actually have a sleeve, but usually around, I usually carry it like this for my katana. And cons require weapons and props to be inspected. So you'll always have to get inspected if it's available. So as I said, they'll tag it somehow. If it fails, bring it back to the hotel room and bring it to your car. So again, it needs to be disabled or tethered if possible, or you don't want to make it metal and all that. So disable the projectile weapons. Try to be careful with sharp, pointy objects. Try not to have it, try to make it dull or something. Handle with care. Safety first. Okay, no explosives, obviously. Be careful with bubbles because it may affect the costume as well. And don't be surprised if any of it gets confiscated. So again, please be careful. So a week before the con, I have a checklist with the travel checklist. Get your clothes and costumes ready. I tend to do it within like a few days prior to it. Try not to carry too much. Some cons have an app. Now, you can just get all the information on the website. So you can look at the schedule. Try not to overschedule. Give yourself some room. Don't stress yourself out. You're in a con here to have fun. So try to have fun. Try not to go too crazy on it. And also get your travel itinerary ready and check your planes, your trains, and all that stuff. Make sure they're actually running on time. So that's just the checklist. That's just an overall. I'm not going to go too much into detail. You already know the basics for it. So obviously the deodorant, I put that in red and I put that in bold. I don't want to smell your whatever it is. Okay, you bring your medications. I have my medications in my bag. Your phones and chargers, your battery packs, your wallets. I already talked about the documents over and over. I always bring water. It's very important to hydrate. So that's just the cosplay repair kit suggestions. There's so many, you don't have to bring all of them. Some cons actually have a cosplay repair place where they can fix your cosplays. Usually I bring the safety and hairpins, the Velcros. You don't have to go too crazy on that. So hygiene, you already know this. You gotta follow your safety precautions and wear a mask. You gotta take a shower, okay? I think you've heard enough from me for that. You gotta brush your teeth. Okay, you gotta bring hand sanitizer. I have a bottle in my bag for that. Make sure your clothes are clean. I don't wanna smell whatever it is, okay? So you arrived at the con, arrive super early, get your badges, you stay hydrated, and you find the free coat bag check. My friend and I did that earlier this morning. That's right. And then you reevaluate where you wanna go on the schedule. So if the schedule looks good, great. But always make sure that, especially with the more popular ones, you want to arrive there early, or else they may do some kind of a cutoff. So, because obviously there's a fire hazard. So you prioritize if there are overlaps. If it's high priority, go there. Don't overschedule too much. So con breakdown. So not all cons will have it, but most of them will have a dealer's room, artist alley, and autographs. So you got to watch what you're spending. It's great to have panels. I'm doing one right now. There's photo shoots, meetups, and all that. So now online virtual cons, I'm not going to go too much into it. So you don't leave your home. You're going online and it's cheaper. You just need good internet access. It's not the best for me though. I like that face-to-face interaction. So online virtual cons have similar things that an actual con has, but a lot of stuff you'd order online, and then you do your pictures at home rather than a con. So 6-2-1 or 6-3-1 rule. So at least you have to get 6 hours of sleep, 2 to 3 meals a day. If you're trying to lose weight, try to have more meals, but like less foods, like smaller portions, but more meals, like more than 6 times a day. I'd say with a multivitamin, simply because just to cover all your needs. And of course you have to shower. I say that all the time. Okay, at least once a day, and then you put deodorant afterwards. So you manage your time, money, and energy. So it's, again, have fun, be positive, keep your schedule realistic, keep it balanced, keep it flexible, and be prepared for any changes. You need comfortable shoes, so even if the cosplay requires something else, you don't have to go too crazy with it, And keep track of your time and money. And if you need a quiet, safe space, look for those. And always take a step back and breathe if everything's it's overwhelming. So I'm gonna go a little bit into it for spoon theory. So basically, Christine Miserandino has lupus, so spoons is like the energy meter. So when you sleep or get rest, you get more spoons. If you do an action, you lose the spoons. So this is just an example. Everyone's different. So if you clean the house, for example, it says 5 spoons, some people will take maybe 10 or maybe 1. Or if you have a meal, sometimes it could be 1 spoon. It's up to you. So some people use it, especially for those who have low energy or low stamina. So as I said, she has lupus, so it can be used for those with chronic illnesses or disabilities. So in units of energy, spoons, obviously. If you run out of it, you're gonna use it from tomorrow, so you gotta be careful. And some people, I say for some people, you start with 20 spoons. I don't really follow it, it really depends. Some people start with 100, but everyone's different. So when it comes to money, you gotta ask yourself before making a purchase. So why am I here? How do I feel? Do I need this? You gotta compare between a need and a want. So, like let's say if it's an umbrella, of course you're gonna need it. Now, if you want it, it's fine, but do you have enough space for it? Or would you have enough money to pay for your basics, like for the bills, for utilities, for water, or your rent? I know rent takes up a big portion of your paycheck. What if I wait? Maybe the prices will go down. How do I pay for it? Would I use credit card? Be careful with credit cards. Why? Because you don't want to build up too much of your debt. If you do use a credit card, you always have to watch what you're spending. And what I do is, the day before it's due, you clear everything. You pay everything. Don't pay the minimum, pay everything. Okay, now if you buy anything, like, where would I put it? Do you have enough space? A lot of times, I don't have enough space. I'm not gonna buy a lot of things. So people should know, cosplay is never consent. Okay, keep your hands to yourself. Don't be like Governor Cuomo. Okay.
Oh, God, really?
Yes. No. Please.
Politics, really?
No. The only politics I'm talking about is that person. Okay. It doesn't matter if you're the governor or if you have all the powers in the world and all that stuff. You gotta respect each other. Okay. Simple as that. Always ask permission when it comes to photos or video recording. Okay. Don't do sneak attacks, please. Okay. Some people will get anxiety from that or get meltdowns from it. So be careful with other people's possessions. If the person say no, it's no. Move on. That's it. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, then don't do it. Okay? It's your body. Okay? Don't have anyone take advantage of you. If someone's harassing you, you state and address it, and you confront the person. But of course, don't get into a big, don't go too crazy. And you want to ignore it. But if the person keeps bothering you, whatnot, I would contact ConOps, maybe the security guard. Okay, if it persists, I would take a picture of the person, report it, and all that. So etiquette, you should know, don't block moving traffic. If you're gonna do photo shoots and take pictures, do it at a side. Also watch the lighting as well. You respect people's space and be alert of surroundings. And cosplay judging, it's only for contests, okay? No one's perfect. One example is my hair, so I'm dressed up as Giyu from Demon Slayer. It's not spiking. So, but still, I love cosplaying him. It's a different variant, You can't always focus on canon. Why? Because cosplay is art. Right? And you can do many different things and be creative about it. So, again, there are many ways to cosplay someone. I'll explain one example. I would say compliment and acknowledge and praise and motivate and give suggestions on how to improve. Say that, maybe you could do important ways. I love the cosplay. Maybe you can put this, it'll be so much better. Or put the lights in, whatnot. And you don't have to love or hate a cosplay, okay? So, again, not everyone's a pro, and you gotta respect the fact that they're actually cosplaying. So, this is not canon. So Team Rocket joining the Akatsuki. So on the left side, there's half Naruto, half Sasuke. And just to top it all off, there are 12 different Sasukes you can do. You can there's a 13th one I want to add. Just, you can do an e-boy Sasuke, who knows? Or goth. So you should know this already. So it doesn't matter how tall or short, height, weight, your race, your gender, your age, skill level. You can do whatever you want with cosplay, whatever you want, as long as you don't hurt anyone and you still look great. Plus, beauty is very subjective. Okay, so what's beautiful for one person may not be for another one. Networking is also important. It's not just about having fun, it's also making friends too. So be yourself, and you can network because you can actually exchange information, ideas about maybe cosplays. Who knows? It could be a job opportunity. You never know. So be respectful, honest, and straightforward, and ask about other interests or the cosplays, and you can share your passions. At the end of the panels, you can speak with me. Okay? If you have any questions, if you're busy or whatnot, you can actually go to my Instagram, Wildgoldean, WILDGOLDEAN. You can DM me. I may be a little bit busy, but I will get to you, don't worry. So, as an autistic, networking is not my easiest thing to do, but I practice. But you practice with someone you trust. I tend to have a script, but try not to act like a robot. Hi, how are you? How are you? Don't try not to be repetitive. It takes practice. And just know that not everyone will befriend you. It's not your fault, okay? Some people have bad days. Don't have anyone take advantage of you. And the other way around, don't take advantage of anyone. Don't let anyone take advantage of you. Don't blow up their feed or their phone. Please don't blow up my Instagram. Please, all right? So again, with networking, you share common interests. There are online groups. And then there's some things we call icebreakers. So you can ask them, like, have you been to cons before? How long have you been cosplaying? What's your favorite anime or manga? What's your favorite character? Or you can have a question, how can I make this? For example, there was one question I asked, how do I spike my hair? So it takes time, because I have to do all the blow dry and all that. And I would also compliment too. There are different areas to network or to cosplay. To network. So there's meetups, photo shoots, the dealer's room where you buy things, the panels, when you're waiting on the line dances and the parties. So in the parties, the dances, for 21 and older, you limit alcohol intake and you don't mix alcohol with drugs. I know it sounds obvious, but please don't. Especially in this con. This is an all-age con. Also, no illicit drugs. I know pot is legal. Don't do it, please. No smoking or vaping. Smoking is not good for you anyway. And when you're partying, usually a full meal would help, simply because in case if you get a little too much of alcohol, at least the alcohol doesn't go into the system too quickly. Try not to give in with peer pressure, walk away from negativity. I would go with friends. And when you party, be careful, watch yourself. Don't overdo it. All right, so I tell my patients, you can do 1 to 2 glasses a day. That doesn't count. That's not 1 glass, that's probably 5 in one day. So how much is too much alcohol? So 1 glass is 0.6 ounces or 18 milliliters if you want to follow the metric system of pure alcohol. Some examples is 12 ounces of beer. If it's 5% or 10 proof. A lot of times you're gonna see percentages on the bottles. So those are just some of the examples. So generally women, 1 glass a day. Men, 2 glasses a day, simply because men have higher metabolism rates. And pregnant and nursing, obviously, no alcohol. Would you want your baby drunk? No. So be careful on what you're drinking and how much. What I do is I calculate. There is a calculation I'm going to post. You don't have to memorize it. The whole message is to watch yourself. All right. Obviously, no alcohol if you're 21 or below. If you're pregnant and nursing, no alcohol for you. If you're a designated driver, you got to stay sober. As I said earlier, do you want to get into a crash? No. If you take medications, obviously, if you have no alcohol, and if you have health conditions, like especially cirrhosis, that's a type of liver disease, you should not be drinking alcohol to begin with. You don't have to memorize this, just know the trends. So obviously, the more you weigh, or the more body mass, that means the more alcohol it takes to get you drunk. But the skinnier you are, the less alcohol it takes to get you drunk. So that actually explains why 1 to 2 glasses a day is the maximum. That's it. Because if you go higher than that, you're going to be in the red portion. We don't want that. So that's the calculation. I'm not going to go over too much about it. So it's amount to drink in ounces times the percent of pure alcohol divided by 100, and you get your ounces of pure alcohol. Of course, you have to get you can actually approximate. You can also ask what the percentage as well. If you see a proof, like 80 proof, for example, you divide it by 2. So we're gonna go just a little quickly on this one. I drank 8 ounces of Hennessy, 40%. How much alcohol did I drink? So 8 ounces times 40% divided by 100. I drank 3.2 ounces of pure alcohol. Remember I told you for how many ounces of pure alcohol per glass? I said 0.6. 3.2, that's like what, 5 times the amount? Whoa, that's like 5 glasses. I'm really in the red, am I? So again, you got to be careful. There are other factors. So if you have a full meal, you're probably not going to get all the alcohol in one shot. No pun intended. So those are just tips of reducing the use. I'm not going to go too much into it. So you set your limits. I told you about having a full stomach, and again, you got to watch what you're drinking. So we're going to talk about after the con. And if possible, attend if it's available, you attend the feedback session or panel. Why? Because the ones who are working, they want you to come back. Not because of the money, of course, but to have fun and all that stuff. So always tell them what they can improve on. They're willing to listen, trust me. If you don't have the time to do that, you can actually email the con or provide feedback. You can maintain contact info with other people, or even with the con staff or whatnot, and keep in touch as well. I share my picks and positive experiences, and you can plan your next con and event. I always do that. I'm gonna go to a con next week, and I'm gonna do a panel as well. So post-con blues and depression, that happens to me too. It's normal, it happens. So what I tend to do is I focus on something positive. So I look at the pictures that I took, and I talk with friends and family, and I try to take it easy for myself. Also, diet and exercise is important, so you have to eat the right foods. So I look forward to another con. That'll make me happy. And there are also private cosplay meetups that your friends can actually do, but you have to look for them. I actually see a therapist. I've been doing that since 2nd grade. So if you're still going through it, please seek professional help. There's one example. It's a BetterHelp app. You can do that through group sessions and unlimited text. I'd rather do it in person, one-to-one. Con crud, the one that I talked about earlier. You get sick afterwards. Hopefully it's not COVID. Okay. Some people get the flu as well, the common cold. Okay. So a lot of times it can be poor hygiene, poor sleep. Maybe you forgot to wear the mask. If you're not eating right, and since it's a large, crowded, confined space, the super spreaders, especially if you're not wearing a mask, you're at risk of getting sick. If you have if your immune system is compromised, that's why earlier I talked about how it's very important to get vaccinated. Okay, again, I'm not forcing anyone to get vaccinated. I'm just saying that it's safe, but it's up to you. And get tested for COVID. Obviously 3 to 5 days afterwards. So we're gonna swift through that one for treating con crud. Obviously your rest and fluids. And as I said, no alcohol. I know. You probably know by now that I'm anti-alcohol. Tylenol and ibuprofen, which is in Advil and Motrin. It's for pain and fever. Ibuprofen or Aleve. Aleve is another one. That's the naproxen. You take it with food. Obviously, you do not take those with alcohol too, okay? Just letting you know. I always carry cough drops in my bag, so I'm starting to get a sore throat now, so I'll probably do it after I finish the panel. Vitamin C, use that to boost your immune system. If you have motion sickness after maybe a long ride, there's meclizine or Dramamine. You'll see it as antivert or whatnot. If you're coughing, especially when you're dealing with the mucus kind of cough, the guaifenesin actually breaks down the mucus, but you also have to drink fluids in order for it to work. The dextromethorphan is for the dry coughs. And the antihistamines, allergy season this year is horrible. Benadryl is one of the better ones, but it makes you sleepy. So a lot of people use Claritin, Zyrtec, or Allegra. I tend to use Allegra, it works, but Claritin, Zyrtec, Allegra, they're like brothers and sisters. So get the ones that's 24 hours. All right, so you can only take it once a day and you have long-lasting relief. All right, so when you're taking medications, you have to read the label. I'm sorry, you can't just take it just like as if it's M&M's or Skittles. That's not how it works. You have to go over the drug facts and uses and warnings, and also taking into account if you take any regular medications. If you're not sure about it, of course, always have a discussion with a doctor or as a with a pharmacist like me. Okay, again, this is more of an educational purpose because everyone's health conditions are different. So take-home messages. Thank you so much for staying this long. I know it's a lot of information, but if you forgot some of it, it's okay. That's why I gave you my Instagram handle. But in summary, you plan early, you be organized, you be proactive, and try not to spend a lot. Have a budget, have a spending plan. As I said before, be positive, have fun. Your goal for coming to a con is to have fun. Anyone can cosplay. It's important to make friends. Your health is important. Wear a mask. Okay, respect each other. Stay nerdy. There's nothing wrong with being a nerd. It's really good to be smart. Look at me. I'm a pharmacist. And do not spread COVID. Do not spread the flu. Do not spread the common cold. Do not spread any diseases. Okay, if you're sick, you stay home. And thank you so much for coming. And I want to give a special thanks to my friend Jazzy. So you can follow her as well, Let Jazzy Red. So she helped with editing the slides as well. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much. But no one has questions? I don't see anyone's hands up. It's a little dark here. All right, so thank you very much. Sorry, I stayed a little over.